Good morning, young kings. Time for your morning motivation. Got a message this morning for you, or maybe it's for me. While I was running today, a lot of stuff was going through my head, and at times I don't even know if it's healthy to vent this one, but um, these have been a form of therapy for me. So I'll record it, and then I'll decide if I'm gonna um, upload it. But as you know, Monday I ran 7 miles, and after that 7 miles, I don't know if I stepped something wrong, but my body started aching and my back was aching. So I didn't run Wednesday because when I got up, my back was aching and I was like, man, my body's sore. I'm not going to be able to do it today. Um, so I got off purpose and just, I was going to say I should have walked, but I decided just to be lazy and I didn't do anything. So Thursday I did a little core exercise and strengthening, and I was feeling pretty good. And then this morning I got up to run, and my back was aching again, and I had a choice to do. It's like, all right, do I take a break, and give my body a rest because you've been going hard, or do I just push through it? Um, Long story short, I ran 8 miles today. Forced myself to get out there and get going. Today's morning motivation is like setback, disappointment, heartache, let down. It's all a part of the process. Uh, you can't get around it. Pain is a part of the process. You can't get around it. If you don't want those things, you're going to have to stay in your comfort zone because comfort, um, it allows you to avoid that. It'll keep you less than reaching your full potential. So when I got up this morning, like I said, my back was hurting still. Like I said, I don't know if I tweaked something Monday or if it was just going that far that made my body just respond in a negative way. Um, and then when I got up this morning, I said, all right, at least get out there and do something. So I get up to the track and I start running around the neighborhood. And at first, I started to take a shortcut. I said, you know what? If you run around the track and you don't feel good, then you can stop and you ain't got far to walk to the car. But I didn't want to crutch. So I said, instead of um, running around the track, I'm going to run around the neighborhood. So if I get stuck and I get tired, I still got to get back. So that was going to be my extra motivation to continue to go as opposed to being on the track and being able to stop and just walk to the car. So I started running through the neighborhood and I said, all right, just put 3 miles on the tracker, just enough to say that you got out and you ran. So I got to my 3 mile marker and I started looking and realizing like, hey, I think you can push it a little further, you know. So I kept on going straight and got to the 5 mile marker. And I was like, well, you're not in excruciating pain. You had a little discomfort, but still should keep going. So then I got to where I turned for my 7 mile journey. And I remember my body was saying like, hey, you're going to really be hurt now. 7 miles was your limit. And I realized, I said, you know what? That's not my limit. That's just my new boundary that I need to break through. So instead of turning there, I decided to continue straight and end up running just over 8 miles. And I say that to say that sometimes discomfort and pain will come your way, and you got an opportunity to decide what you're going to do with it. So I got a few stories on this one. I remember when I was about to graduate with my bachelor's degree, I had one class to finish, and when I get to a class, I look at the syllabus and I see all the points I need to pass the class, and I make sure that I have the minimum. So if I decide to take a break, I realized I already passed the class without doing that any more assignments. So, and that's where I was on this last class. I had passed the class. I had like a C minus or C plus if I didn't do my final exam. And I remember I was down there and I was about to cram, doing the last minute stuff, doing the final exam, and I get a call from a friend saying, hey, we about to play basketball. And I was already burnt out. I mean, I had been doing evening classes, I had been working, I had been really grinding. So I was like, call myself taking a break. I was like, you know what? I already passed this class. I'm going to graduate. I'm not going to do this assignment. I'll just take the C. And I went out and I played basketball. And I remember we was playing basketball. We had a few games that we played. It was doing all right. But my strength was hustling. Like, I didn't know how to halfway go. So if I was going to be playing, I was going to play hard. So I remember we were playing and, fouls and stuff going on. And then there was a loose ball. And, it was a 50-50 ball. And I'm running at it, and this other guy's running at it. And he's like probably twice my size. And we just collide in the middle. And all of a sudden, my arm just drops down out of socket, and it was just painful. I mean, if I knew how to cry, I probably would cry. But at that point in time in my life, I didn't know the value of tears. But I was in excruciating pain, and it's out of socket. And I remember my friend DeMarco Scott, he was like, "Hey, let me just yank it back in. We can snap it back in." I was like, "Hell no, you ain't touching this." But, so he offered his assistance. He ain't no physician. I wasn't going to let him snap it back in. They say it's just out of socket. So long story short, I wasn't even supposed to be out there playing. I was supposed to be back handling my business, finishing up this degree. But I called myself taking a break, and I ended up getting a break. I ended up breaking my arm, and I tore my rotator cuff. But the doctor told me that had I allowed them to yank it back in place, I would have done a lot more damage than it would have been good. And at times people will offer assistance and do stuff that may be more damaging than it do be good for you. So you got to be mindful of those who help you, try to help you, are not hurting you. And I say that because it's like before I had went there to do this, I had already taken my fitness tests, and I was already cleared to go to flight school. So my fitness tests, I think before I had broken my arm, I was doing like 75 push-ups in the 2 minutes required. And after I broke my arm, I had like probably about 3 or 4 months, or maybe 5 months before I was scheduled to go to flight school. But after I broke my arm, although I had met the physical requirements already, and I already had the obstacle where they really didn't want me to go to flight school. I think I told you the story of how I got there. So they put another obstacle in my way. They're just like, "Well, we know you passed the test, but we got to make sure that you're still currently able to go because you got this injury, and we don't want to send people down there on a profile and they can't meet the physical requirements and they be sent home." So my arm is just in excruciating pain, and I mean, it's my left arm too, and I'm left hand. So I can't tie my shoe, I can't do anything, I can't do nothing for myself. And I'm struggling to try to use my right hand and whatnot. But the basis of it is that I was injured. I had a severe injury, and I couldn't do normal activities. So I remember Reverend Jenkins, Pastor Jenkins, Bob Jenkins, was my youth pastor. I went to him all the time, and he was praying for me. He was saying, "You got to believe you healed." I was going through the therapy and doing taking all this medication, thinking that it was going to work. And he says, "This is not where a human physician. This is only the work of a great physician that's going to heal you." And he said, "Do you believe you heal?" And I said, "Yeah, I believe I'm healed." And he says, "Go and operate it like that." And I remember going back to physical therapy and trying to figure out what's what. And I remember I had about two months left, and I was thinking I should have been further ahead. And I remember pulling up to his house, and I just said, "I just need to talk to you." And I got to his house, and I was just breaking down. And, I had crossed that threshold of tears at this point. I was like, this was a dream. It's about to go away. I mean, I broke my arm. I can't get healed. I mean, it feels like I'm not recovering fast enough to be able to do this. And I got to take this fitness test. And he repeated to me, he's like, "You healed." He said, "Do you believe you healed?" I said, "Yeah, I'm healed, but my arm it's not responding to what I believe." He's like, "Do you believe you healed?" I said, "Yes, I'm healed, but my arm." He says, "That's the problem. You healed, and you need to get your butt out the way. There's no but to this. You healed." You need to start operating that and get your butt out the way. So I remember I was like, I'm going to stop making excuses. I'm going to continue to do physical therapy. And then it couldn't have been more than a week later. I said, you know what? If I'm healed, I'm going to take off this sling. I'm not going to wear this sling anymore. So I took my sling off. Although my arm was still dangling and I really couldn't move it, I wanted to start operating in that healing. And I remember I was at work, and one day I was sitting at my computer. I had been up all night, and I was tired. I was extremely tired. I was just like, man. And I leaned back in my chair, and my arm, before this time, I couldn't get my arm up more than just a little bit without pain. But subconsciously, I was so tired. I leaned back in the chair, and I just like, oh man, I'm tired, you know. And then came back down, and when I did that, my mind was like, it wasn't thinking that it was injured. But as soon as I put it back down, I looked at my arm. I was like, man, that's the furthest I got my arm up, you know. I was like, and I was just jumping for joy. I called him. I said, man, I can lift my arm over my head. I'm gonna make it. And he said, I told you it was healed. But then started the recovery phase, and I still had to do the fitness test and get back in line and start training, because one thing happens with your muscles when you don't use it. They become very weak, and you got to start building them from scratch. So I had to start building it from scratch. And the long story short, I know I'm over 10 minutes already, but when I redid my fitness test a few weeks after that, I think it was about 2 months after I raised my arm over my head. Before I did my fitness test, I had did like 72, 73 push-ups in the 2 minutes. After I broke my arm, I did like 79, just shy of 80 push-ups, because I was so determined that, hey, this wasn't gonna be my obstacle. So I say that to say that setbacks, disappointments, heartaches, that stuff happens to you. As I mentioned this morning, I wasn't feeling good. Feeling my body was aching in my back, and some of you got discernment. You're gonna have to use your wisdom to read between the lines on some of the stuff I'm saying, because I try not to vent too much, but I do want to venture into a vent, meaning that I wasn't on purpose Wednesday. I got up and I didn't run, and I just felt off. Like, it's not that I didn't run that made me off, but it was just like I wasn't on my purpose and on my grind to being who I was supposed to be and who I'm striving to be. So when I wasn't on my grind, I started to get distracted, and in some of this distraction, I started to scroll through social media, and I seen some disturbing stuff, or some accusations, or some things about myself from my ex, and it kind of got me off guard, because it put them in a position of being a victim, and by no way, yes, we just dissolved a marriage of would have been 25 years Tuesday, um, but I'm not a victim, and that individual's not a victim either. But they mentioned something about getting used to my absence, because of some of the disrespect or stuff of that nature, and it had a very victim mindset. And it was the reason I read it, because I wasn't even on purpose. I'm just scrolling through, so it's a reminder to me, when I'm not on purpose, don't get on social media. But I say that to say this: it's like there's no victim in this. Like, yes, there will be a group of individuals that you could solicit to say that I'm some deadbeat dude, or that you wasted your life with me. But the reality of it is, and I'll put business out there, it's like I pay over just about $4,000 a month in child support and alimony. So yeah, it's just money, and you tell me it's just money, but at the same time, you didn't take your butt up to that court and say, no, this is too much. You gladly accepted that, even on top of that 4,000, that I pay. I still pay the cable bill over there, because my daughter's there, and that's not coming out of that. I still pay their cell phone bill with unlimited data. That's not coming out of there. I'm still over there mowing the grass and doing that stuff. It's not coming out of there. I'm still paying in the midst of COVID. everybody else is shut down off work. 4,000 is more than some people make, grinding on their own. And I'm paying that. Haven't missed, and matter of fact, at times I've been early paying. So that victim mindset, yes, it's only money, but get it right. Tell the whole story. You're not a victim. Neither am I. We celebrated some beautiful years, and we got some beautiful kids. It's just our relationship was ugly, and it wasn't productive or healthy for either one of us. So, but there's not a victim. So, have I done things wrong? And yes, I've been David and looking at Bathsheba. Yeah, I've done that. But tell the whole story. You know, why don't you tell about some of your missteps or some of the things that you have done? So I probably shouldn't vent too much because um, this is social media, and a lot of people are nosy, and they feed on drama. But I just want the whole story to be out there. Like, there's no deadbeat thing. Tell about the times I'm working 14, 16-hour days and going to school, and I come home and all the food's in the refrigerator and not even a plate in the microwave. Just, hey, fend for yourself and clean up after yourself. And you're a stay-at-home mom, and I can't even get that, and I'm out grinding and trying to make things work. Why don't you tell that story? Tell the story of how I'm laying in bed begging for some attention, so to speak, and saying that you're my only moral outlet, and you tell me don't put that burden on you. That's between me and God. Stop being selfish. Tell that story. Tell the story of how I'm in Afghanistan and I'm trying to get you to do something freaky for the screen, and this and that, and you tell me I'm nasty, you don't do that, and you hanging up on me, and I'm thousands of miles away, bombs going off and everything. You don't know if I'm going to make it home or not. But come to find out, you doing the same thing with somebody else online while I'm in Afghanistan. Tell that story. You won't tell that. You'll just tell the victim side. Yeah, I'll stop there because you can play victim because you're quiet, but the reality of it is you're a silent assassin yourself. So I'm not a victim. I own what I did wrong, and maybe it's time for me to go back in my cave and come back off this social media tip. But I'm not a victim. Neither are you. There's been times during this process, like I told you, paying close to 4,000. There's been times where I've been down to 51 cents in my account, but I made sure you were straight. So this ain't I'm some deadbeat dude, and all those little friends you got, they ain't met a man like me, so they can tell you, forget him, he ain't nothing. But they don't know in 25 years you ain't never paid a mortgage payment. You ain't never paid a bill. You ain't never went without. You ain't never paid a car payment until recently, and that's coming out of that 4,000 that I give you. So don't make it seem like they ain't met a man like me. Their story is not your story, where they went out grinding and working and contributing and they taking care of some deadbeat dude. That's not your story. I take care of mine. And you know what? I'm still going to do that. I'll probably be over this weekend to mow the grass because that's the type of person I am. I'm probably still going to pay. I know I'm going to still pay their cell phone bill. I'm still going to grind and do that. So when you get into these pity circles, just remember that their story is not your story. I'm not some dude that ran off, and you tell me that I'm like my dad, and I think that's where you try to use that as an indictment against me. And I love the man he is today, but we all know that he wasn't shit coming up, that he abandoned me, never attended a game, never was there, and that's no indictment on the man he is today, but I'm nothing like him. My dad used to beat my mom. He used to tell me not to touch his stereo. That was the same shit that got my mom's arm broke. I ain't never put my hands on you. Never. Matter of fact, I can't even get a hug from you. So don't make it seem like you try to shame me into something and you try to build a support group around false information. So just like I didn't feel like getting up this morning to run, I'll recover from this as well. I had to remind myself who the fuck I was. I'm a king. I'm a warrior. I'm a soldier. I'm gonna be okay. You know. And a long story short, you act right. I'm gonna make sure you're okay. You know. It may be over. It may be a comma, or it may be a period. But that's up to you. But it all depends. There's no more free rides. You know. Um, my life is good. I'm moving in a good position. I'm living life. Like I said, I was down to 51 cents, paying off debt, trying to make sure I was all right. And I made sure you didn't suffer during that. But you know what? I just bought the house off that. So, and when I left, I didn't take any furniture or anything. So, um, I'm not some shady dude who just abandoned his responsibility. I went above and beyond. There's people that wouldn't do that. So, yep, that's enough venting. But who knows if I upload this or not? But I needed to get it off my chest, and this will be the last time I'll address it. Like as I said in the video before, a few videos before, sometimes you can't come down from your tree to start addressing things. You know, you got to get on purpose. And the only reason I seen it is because I was off purpose. So it's a reminder to me that sometimes setbacks, disappointment, heartaches, you're not immune to them. I'm not perfect. So when I'm posting these videos about morning motivation, I need to be motivated myself. I'm not immune to these things, the situations in life. They happen to me too. But I choose to get better in spite of them. You know, the rose that grew from the concrete, it wasn't an ideal situation. But adversity can't break me. It's only going to build me. I was built for this. Y'all have a great day.